Hey everybody, today I'm going to be talking about this very obscure and kind of uncommon scanner from Japan that I just picked up. It's kind of e-waste at this point. I mean, it pretty much is e-waste. But it's very interesting because of when the scanner came out. This scanner is from 1986, believe it or not. It's the NEC PC-IN502. And it was originally sold and designed for the PC-98 series and PC-88 series of computers. But see, this was the mid-80s, and so when you'd buy something like a scanner for a lot of money, because this was a scanner that cost 100,000 yen, which is a bit of money for a scanner, but this was a scanner that cost 100,000 yen, and this scanner was kind of popular, at least for a time. And I say that because there were people who essentially wrote their own programs to use this scanner with other 8-bit microcomputers and other 16-bit computers. In fact, I know that there's at least one Sharp X68000 image creation and editing utility that will accept input from this scanner. It even has a scanner driver for the PC-IN502. So let's talk about the scanner a bit. This is a very hard to find scanner because the problem is, with old printers and especially old scanners, people who would buy them will go, well, this is an old piece of crap, it's not very good, I'm going to chuck this to e-waste. And quite frankly, when you look at the specs of this scanner, you can see why many of these probably ended up in e-waste. So let's take a look at the front of it. We've got a contrast knob. We've got ourselves a menu option, well, set the mode option, not menu. The scan size, A4, B5, and business card. Because it's not American, we have A4 and no markings for letter. We've got ourselves a resolution. This only goes up to 240 dpi, from what I know. And it only does one color mode, pure black and white. This only has two colors. Black and white, no grayscale, no monochrome, no color, pure black and white. And then this is a button that's interesting because this is a start button and it acts as an option to start printing. And what I mean by this is the weirdness is only beginning with this early flatbed scanner from 1986. Let's go to the side here. And all the connectors are on the side. I mean, it makes sense because this was designed for home computers. We've got our main connector here, RS-232C female. Same connector you'll find on old modems. We've got ourselves, and this is where the fun begins. First, let's take a look at these ports. This is a parallel port, and this is a printer port. You see, the PC-98 machines had a subset of the printer interface. I think it was only unidirectional, so they put this little smaller Centronics connector here to save money because it was only unidirectional anyway. So let's get rid of all the redundant pins and put a smaller connector on here. And this is something they did with a lot of PC-98s. If you look at like any old PC-98, it's going to have that smaller connector. But here's where it gets frustrating. So, when it comes to using like computers from anywhere else in the world, but in particular Western computers, you have a lot of luxuries, okay? You've got bit savers with PDFs and software. You've got archive.org, which is also people uploading software and PDFs. And there's databases of dip switches and, you know, settings for all these old school PC hardware, like from the Usenet era that's still preserved on the internet today. With Japanese computer hardware, you are in an unbound frontier. You're like in an undiscovered frontier, and that's what I should say. You are in a brand new frontier of not knowing what you're doing. Case in point, like this old IBM hard drive lying around. If you Google DPES 31080 jumpers, you're going to get a nice list of jumpers from some old Usenet or BBS post or something. You do not have that luxury with this, period. You only have literally unlabeled, 100% unlabeled. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and And I don't even know what these jumpers do. One of them's possibly set wrong. But how would I know? Because if you Google PC-IN502, or even search it on Yahoo Japan, you'll find a handful of stories, a program listing for a PC-98 scanning utility, and of course, you'll find some Yahoo Japan listings, including one with, I kid you not, a picture for ants. Yes, a picture for ants on the listing. It's like you can't even read what they're writing about the scanner, because it has a picture of the manual, or at least one of the sheets that says how to configure it, but it's for ants, and unfortunately, you don't have it. So when it comes to Japanese hardware, you really only have 3 ways of finding out any sort of information, because a lot of people in Japan don't scan manuals. The first one is to have the manual with it. Good luck on that. The second one is to find a GeoCities site which has the dip switches written on it, or a mirror of it. And the third way of getting this information out is to, what was I saying? You either have to have a GeoCities or BBS post or forum post or something with it, or you have to find a scan of the manual. And that's about it. I don't even know if there's a third way to find this stuff, other than maybe trial and error. Yeah, I think that's what it was, is trial and error. And so you can find information on more popular PC-98 cards and accessories by, I don't know, looking online and seeing about that. And you can find a lot more because a working sound card is required to play Toho and video games. But nobody cares about this old scanner, so you're not going to see many people talking about this or having a clue about it. Asking away is one of those you better hope you get lucky situations. That's kind of why I'm uploading this video now. So, let's pop the top of it, because it still gets weirder. So, we've got ourselves an A4 bed, very natural. We've unfortunately got mold on here, but it looks like it's a very easy disassembly. You just have to remove those 2 screws, it seems, and pop it. And then I could probably give it a nice cleaning. See that mold? Disgusting, I'm telling you. I gotta clean that before I can actually seriously use this. And we've got a circuit board down here. Let's turn the scanner on and I'll show you what it does. You notice that old school fluorescent bulb? Let me push this button to start it. It's going to air out or make a 2 beep sound because there's no printer, but as you can see here, this is an NEC. Let me turn it on to start it. It's an NEC FL8W. There we go, FL8W. This is a fluorescent bulb, complete with the startup time. And it's a big beast of a bulb. Let's push it again to show you what it does. You see that startup? It's a big beast of a bulb. And also there was some piece of metal floating around the printer. I mean this, I don't even know where it goes, but for all I know, it could be like those heat shields where it's useless, like on the NEC floppies. Or it could be something very important. And then over here, this is very interesting. There's actually a special access door. Let me just lift this up here. A special access door for the fluorescent bulb. Seriously. And if you pull it up, it's got a warning about not removing it unless you're replacing the bulb. It's got the whole mechanism for replacing the bulb there. Have you ever seen a flatbed scanner with a replaceable bulb? So, let's flip this back here and talk a little bit. So, this is an RS-232C scanner. And you know what you're thinking. Holy crap, that's got to be slow. And I read stories from back in the day that these scanners were very slow. Like, I found somebody on a website talking about how it took 7 minutes to make a scan back in the day. Like A4, so like this whole thing, You know how, like, nowadays, it makes a scan really fast unless you set it to some crazy high DPI? Imagine only 2 colors at a somewhat low DPI. So only black and white, a low DPI, and it's taking 7 whole minutes to scan. Yeah. It's easy to see why a lot of people probably sent these to e-waste, because they saw no reason in keeping this around to do sprite art or similar art for a really old, obsolete computer that's headed to the scrap heap anyway, so why should anybody care? And that's why I've got this. And I wanted to get this working to demonstrate how this is done, but it seems like, unfortunately, because you don't have any knowledge on how to get these things going if you don't have a manual, you're out of luck. And let me show you what I mean. So let's go over here. This is our PC-98 21RA20. The cable's tested good because I tested the cable with a modem and it dialed out and tried to connect. It's just the BBSs I put the numbers in of were kind of poorly set up. So I also tried several things. I tried switching the operating system from Windows 98 to Epson DOS 5. I'm going to boot it now. Here's a fun fact about PC-98s, by the way. If you put in a SCSI hard disk or have multiple partitions, you get this really cool boot selector that looks like this. You get to choose between, I think, basic, your first drive, and your second drive or whatever. Really cool thing. Let's boot from DOS 5. Which is actually labeled, because you can do that in like the format thing. You get to label what you want to call each partition. So we're going to boot from it. And Epson DOS 5 is interesting because you get a menu you can hit shift to change stuff in. It's telling us that it can't read SCSI ID 0. And we've got DOS shell booting. We're going to quit out of here. And we're going to go to... I've also got Kid98 on here, which is another art software made by Z-Staff or Zeit. And I'm going to try using Multipaint. So we're going to try scanning this. So what we got to do is go here. And we scroll down to PC-IN502. And it's going to give us some options. We're going to hit EXEC. And nothing from the scanner. And then we get this nice error message about how there's a protocol mismatch, or it's not ready, and what to set it to. Well, how do we know what it's set to if we don't have a manual and there's nothing written on the scanner itself, just dip switch on and off? I'm telling you, these old Japanese computers are like a weird frontier of endlessly guessing what the setting is. And for all I know, there's probably some factory-only don't-touch dip switch, too. Maybe like 4 of them for all I care. Okay, we're going to go to CD. What next? Well, first we're going to go to switch. Now, on both Epson and NEC DOS, when you type switch in, you get to change the basic switch settings. And as you can see, we've got 9600 8N1. I think that's what it is. I can actually double check right now with my phone. Because unfortunately, with this old stuff, you kind of have to, if you don't know Japanese, you kind of have to use your phone and machine translate it. And one of my friends basically said, I'm going to learn Japanese so I don't have to play these. I'm going to paraphrase him because it's not YouTube safe. I don't want to play bad translations. Bad translations, or you know those like cringy translations that people do where they insert like stupid memes and current year politics that's going to be out of date in not even if by the end of the year, where every game they translate sounds like it's the Saints Row reboot. That kind of thing. And he wants to learn Japanese so he doesn't have to play it, which is really based, honestly, because he doesn't want to play bad translations. So yep, let's translate it. 9600 8N1. So now that I've set it to that, yep, I think we've got an issue with this scanner, or at least somewhere in the chain there's some issues, and I can't tell because I don't know. I don't have the manual. period. Alright, had to change my camcorder battery. So this is KID 98 for the PC-98. And if we go, sorry about that rolling, that's what happens when this camera meets 24 kilohertz video. So we're going to click here to change our settings. And we're going to choose the IN502. And we're going to use the scanner. We're just going to choose whatever. And I think I saw it flash something, but it doesn't look like it's doing anything. Nope. It's not doing anything. Let's try it again. Let's click here. Nope. Nothing. Absolutely nothing from the scanner. It's almost like it's dead. Completely dead. Like if I just see right here, nothing. Let me just click to change it to 240 and see what it does. Nothing. That's the problem with these scanners. They don't exactly like to work if you don't have the settings set. Or at least that's how it is with the PC-98 in general. It seems like that's the PC-98 experience. If you have one thing wrong, you get nothing. And look, it just kicked us back to the center screen. Nice. I'm just going to quit this. But this is what you would use back in the day, something like KID 98 or Multipaint to make art with one of these. Let's reset the scanner. Let's load it again. And let's go to scan. Let's click the button and see what it does. Nope, that might have been just something I saw on the side of my eye that I thought did something. Nothing from there, nothing from here. The PC-98 experience. Getting stuff like this when it doesn't work. Blank screens, no error messages, and having to guess what in the chain is causing your issue. So there we have it. A scanner that unfortunately I cannot get working due to a lack of documentation. But at least I have this museum piece of a useless scanner because of this, which is pretty much like if it was sitting in the shrine of a typical Redditor right now, where it's just in the shelf and you're like, hey, I've got this old scanner, and it doesn't attract as much attention as posting a picture of your visual novels that you bought on Yahoo Japan, unfortunately, but this is what you'd use to make them. So, if anybody has any tips on how to get this thing working, post in the comments. But, unfortunately for now, I'm just going to have to take a break on this scanner. I'll just put it away and come back to it in a few months if somebody ever tells me. Or I figure out or find some manual for sale or something. So, that's all that needs to be said. Thanks for watching, and subscribe for more interesting computer content.